Jaclynn is completing a PhD in philosophy, is a lecturer at an American university in Taiwan, and is co-founder of the Taiwan Women's Association and a member of the newly formed LGB Alliance Taiwan. We will hand it over to Jaclynn. Jaclynn, welcome.
I am the Taiwan country rep for WDI. I'm also the state of Hawaii representative. And I'm going to be talking to you today about what's going on here in Taiwan. I am originally from Hawaii. I teach at a university here in Taiwan. I've been here for many years. I'm a permanent resident of Taiwan. All right, so just to give you, if you're not aware of what's going on in Taiwan, or if you don't know me, basically how this all started in Taiwan, to give you a very short overview, is that in 2021, I published a series of articles that came out on Feminist Current about self-ID in Taiwan. The first trans-identified male was allowed to change his sex marker to female through self-declaration. And I had been writing about gender ideology trickling in, seeping into Taiwan before that. But this was the first time through those 3 articles, the series that I did, news about what was happening in Taiwan was reaching the English-speaking world. So through those articles, I was able to have my work translated into Chinese, and those articles were like wildfire throughout the feminist community, women's rights activist community, across social media. Basically, all of those women got together because they weren't aware that this was happening on this scale. They got together in Taiwan. We started drafting petitions. We started doing door-to-door campaigns. We started to organize from the grassroots up. And now, 4 years later, we have made major strides. And we have government-recognized organizations now that are pushing back against this. So that's kind of how we got from there to now. Let's talk about what is going on in Taiwan. Topics for today, we're going to talk a little bit about why Taiwan? Why is this happening here? Why is it happening now? Taiwan is sort of hitting its stride with peak woke, as I call it. Why is this happening now? Foreign funding and foreign influence in the country. Surrogacy, we're going to touch on a little bit, and other issues that are under threat in the country. In case you didn't know where Taiwan was, I don't know. I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So I'm waving at you from that little blue island. I left one small island in Hawaii to come to another small island, as one does. So what is going on in Taiwan? Well, there's a lot going on, starting with the fact that if you watch the news, you might be aware of a little bit of tension that exists between China and Taiwan. Taiwan is geopolitically incredibly vulnerable. It's diplomatically isolated, and it is craving Western approval. It needs Western approval. This makes us, this small island nation, very easy prey for activist groups that want to test the limits of what they can get away with gender ideology in East Asia. So again, Taiwan is not fully recognized as a sovereign state. In fact, it's mostly not recognized as a sovereign state. So it always has to seek validation from other more developed countries, or shouldn't say developed, but Western countries. Taiwan has a habit of overcompensating in its efforts to appear as liberal a democracy as possible, to contrast itself to our authoritarian neighbors in China. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle. The West praises Taiwan for being so incredibly progressive and adopting Western style ideologies like gender ideology. And this becomes like a badge of honor for Taiwan to be on the right side of history, to be on the side that the West is on. It also means that for a lot of Taiwan's education and their intellectual elites who are educated in North America, this is a great opportunity to import a lot of these Western theories wholesale. American postmodernism, mainstream feminism, queer theory. So a lot of local traditions, feminist thought are erased, are subordinated to these imported frameworks. And for a lot of Taiwanese people, it is still a fairly conservative society in many ways. and they aren't aware that a lot of this is happening. There's not a lot of things that get pushed through. The public is not made aware of it beforehand. A lot of Taiwanese people think this is all foreigner drama. This is all Western drama. They're not aware that this is happening here on the scale that it's occurring. Okay. I had to include this here because do you guys remember who this is? The Moroccan boxer, I think, made much bigger headlines. The Moroccan boxer in the Olympics, but please don't forget that Taiwan had Lin Yu-ting, who won a gold in women's boxing. In case you've forgotten, Taiwan really tried to sweep that one under the rug, threatened, I believe, to sue J.K. Rowling. Suspiciously, never happened. Shocker. As soon as Lin came back to Taiwan after the Olympics, Lin was given ad campaigns to promote women's menstrual products. Something I can very much assure you Lin has never needed. And every time I see these advertisements around Taipei, my eyes roll back in my head so hard that I think I'm gonna have an aneurysm. Drives me crazy. So I had to include it because this was something big that happened in Taiwan. Okay, so foreign funding and influence. It's everywhere in Taiwan. NGOs, activist groups, foreign funding partnerships with Western organizations like Amnesty International, Open Society foundations have donated a ton of money into Taiwan and are aggressively pushing these ideologies. OFS, which is Soros, of course, donated $1 million to trans groups in Taiwan. Now, $1 million may not sound outrageously like a huge number, but it is in Taiwan because that amount of money goes very, very far here. Taiwan's Ministry of Education receives grants from international bodies to promote gender diversity education campaigns that target elementary and junior high school students. I don't know if you guys are aware of Susan Stryker, male lesbian, American, terrible person, very notorious for trying to close the Vancouver Rape Crisis Center. He is a huge backer to organizations here, including New Blue Magazine, which is an organization here that is very much supported by him. And a lot of these organizations started as gay and lesbian organizations. And we see this all around the globe, and it's happening in Taiwan. Taiwan was the first country in Asia to legalize marriage equality, same-sex union in 2019. And so all of these gay and lesbian organizations that existed then were then immediately hijacked into trans organizations. So I guess they thought their job was done. No need to support gay and lesbian youth. All of their time, their energy, and this money now goes directly into supporting trans education in Taiwan. The money funneling in, going directly into gender equity education in Taiwan. And the funding is going into education, and things like this are happening. This is a fairly conservative society. This is not a society where it's common to have discussions about sex. And not only last year were these discussions being had with 13-year-old students, but things like gender identity surveys are starting to be given out. Students I saw the survey that was given to students in Taiwan. Parents were not told that this was being given to their kids. Have you had anal sex? Do you send naked selfies to people? What is your gender identity? Do you know anything about gender identity? And if not, what are you going to do to educate yourself? So this is already happening. It took me 6 months to find out this was happening because it's so underhanded. In January, Taiwan approved medical transitioning for children. So this is an example of Taiwan hitting peak woke. As the world is changing and realizing that these things are extremely harmful, Taiwan is going in the opposite direction. In January of this year, the Ministry of Health and Welfare released an LGBT care guideline, which outlines conditions for minors to have sex reassignment surgery. So once you're 12, you can have genital surgery, you can do any surgery you want, basically. Under the age of 12, puberty blockers and hormones. And we've asked for clarification on what this means, because the only thing that we can find that's been put out to the public is that minors between 12 to 18 can undergo medical transition with approval from a professional team. No one has been told what that means. We don't know if these are medical doctors, psychologists, plastic surgeons looking to make a profit. No one's explained that. It's all very vague and subjective. And that's what you often see here in Taiwan. You see rules like this being pushed through without any foresight into what it means or how it's going to be enacted, or even alerting the public that this was something that would be drafted and go into law. So this is happening now. And a few years ago, Taiwan National High School Games, it's the largest annual multi-sport event in Taiwan, brings high school athletes from the country all together. It's often the prerequisite for athletes who enter the Olympics as Chinese Taipei. They allowed trans-identified student athletes to enter as the quote gender of their choice. Non-binary students could participate in either the male or female categories without any restriction. So all happening in Taiwan. No quest for public, for anybody from the public to know about this before it happened. They just sort of pushed it through without telling anybody, and then they wait for the backlash. I wanted to include a slide about commercial surrogacy in Taiwan, because for a long time for us, for our organizations here, this was something that was very much on our radar and something we were very, very worried about. And I'm happy to say that this is a bit of a win for us. So basically, again, Taiwan is still somewhat conservative in East Asia, and same-sex couples and single women cannot access procedures like IVF. They can't freeze their eggs. They can't use sperm donors. So what organizations tried to do in Taiwan was bundle up together, allowing couples to have IVF and sperm donors together with surrogacy. And they tried to draft a bill and pass it through. They really overplayed their hand here, because people were not pleased. It was just way too much for people in Taiwan to wrap their minds around. Right now, there's just too much controversy. So they've had to decouple these concepts. Right now, there's a bill to allow lesbian couples or single women to use donor sperm and IVF, and surrogacy is off the table, which is a huge win. We are very happy about that, because these absolutely repulsive people, this organization, Men Having Babies, came to Taiwan in 2023 and had a huge conference. I think they very much expected, actually, a lot of us expected, that surrogacy was going to be passed and made legal in Taiwan, and they would have an opportunity to come here and purchase children. Very sad for them that their 2025 big conference that they were going to have in Taipei was canceled. And I think they're having it in San Francisco now, but yep, they didn't come back to Taiwan. So that is a huge win for us. We're very happy about that. A lot of the work that we're doing in Taiwan was sparked by self-ID, which began in 2021, goes by a case-by-case basis through the court system in Taiwan. So far, there have been 8 people since then, male and female, who have been allowed to self-ID, change their sex marker. That was our big concern. That's what brought us together as activists. But there are other things that have been happening in the past few years that are greatly concerning to us. Let's start with this photo. Let's see if we can spot the problem. So this photo was sent to me by a girlfriend who is a runner. She's also the mom of a small child. She was out running a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, and she took this photo in the rain. She stopped what she was doing. She sent it to me and she said, "Jackie, what the hell is this?" And I said, "I don't know. What am I looking at? It looks like two men's restrooms. I see a man's bathroom and I see a all gender bathroom, which is just another man's bathroom because there's a urinal in there." That is what's happening in Taiwan. This is a very big problem that we are facing for a variety of reasons, which I also wrote about. So what's happening now in Taiwan is there are 46,000 public restrooms nationwide. And thanks to that Western influence, the Ministry of the Environment here in Taiwan has decided to invest almost $9 million in the next 4 years to double the amount of gender-neutral public bathrooms. Now, what does that mean? That means that they are building bathrooms like this outside where they retain the male's bathroom and then create an all-gender bathroom. So they're getting rid of the women's bathroom entirely. And we went around Taipei and New Taipei and we took photos of a bunch of these inside and outside. And we found the same thing. We found a men's bathroom and an everybody bathroom. And the women's was gone consistently. They're doing that, and they're also creating large mixed sex bathrooms. So a large space with stalls and just everyone goes in together. That is a very big problem for us. It's also moving into the realm of hospitals. So the first hospital to do this, I guess, was 2 years ago. But this year, you can see that there are many hospitals starting to do this. They're getting rid of single-sex wards. They're, in the name of gender friendliness, men and women are going to be housed together. If you go to the hospital and you have a baby or you're just sick and you're in your most vulnerable state, you will possibly have to share a bed right next to a man in order to be gender friendly. And so it's not just bathrooms that we're seeing this. We're seeing this in hospitals as well. And I think most people, again, the public, aren't being asked if this is okay. They're not being told ahead of time. They're just sort of pushing these things through. And I can't imagine what I would do if I were ill and I were in a room, like in the middle of the night, and I knew there were men next to me in the bed. I can't even imagine. This is what's happening. Another big problem is that, of course, spy cam pornography, peeping, and assault have just spun out of control in Taiwan in the past few years. Spy cam porn is huge in East Asia. If you know anything about what's happening in South Korea, you'll know that that's a huge problem in Japan, big problem here. Top university in Taiwan, National Taiwan University. Students are being caught setting up cameras in gender-friendly restrooms because women have nowhere else to go. This same university, National Taiwan University, which is the best university in the country, they conducted a survey of students on campus, and they found that only 20% of their female student body was willing and comfortable using gender-friendly bathrooms. That means 80% of their female student body will not use these bathrooms. But NTU is doubling down, and they're putting in more gender-friendly bathrooms and getting rid of more women's bathrooms. A 26-year-old man in Taipei made headlines recently. He filmed secretly 160 women and girls all throughout the city, girls as young as 12, in bathrooms with spy cams, putting them in all gender restrooms in schools and universities across the city. So trends in sexual harassment over the past 6 years, secret photography and peeping are through the roof. I wanted to touch on the issue that we are facing in Taiwan with harassment from from trans activists. I'm usually the mouthpiece for a lot of what goes on in Taiwan. I don't do, a lot of our members who work behind the scenes are anonymous for fear of harassment. I have a very come at me bro attitude. So I'm usually not involved in a lot of things, but I'm the one that gets called out on it or harassed or attacked, and I'm there for it. So it's fine. Particular case, this happened last year and it was really shocking. So I just wanted to share that with you. Before our meeting, I was talking to Jo and she was asking me about how bad it is here. And it's not bad in the sense that I have to worry about getting bashed in the face for speaking these views out in the public, but there is constant harassment. And this gentleman on the screen is one of the trans-identified males who was able to change his sex marker to female. He is famous. He made international news as a Green Party of Taiwan politician. Everyone was applauding Taiwan for being so progressive, for having the first openly trans politician, and how amazing he was. He was not elected. He lost by a landslide. Just pointing that one out when he watches this video later. But he decided to go on his social media. We have an organization here in Taiwan called No Self ID Taiwan. This was the first organization that got started after 2021's first self ID changing of sex marker. No Self ID Taiwan is amazing, and the people there are incredible. They include local news in Chinese about what's happening with gender ideology, as well as international news, to make sure people in Taiwan are informed about how this is affecting women and girls. They do incredible work. They also have a list on their website of all of the trans-identified men and women who have changed their legal sex marker. All of this information is available to the public, all of it. And this gentleman's name is on that website. He didn't like that. So he posted these threats, and I know it's in Chinese, but if you look on the red side on the bottom, as a famous, well-known politician in Taiwan, and he works in tech, is who volunteers her time to make this organization run. On the bottom, you can see A222. That's the beginning of her government ID number. All of her IDs start with A. He's redacted the rest. 09301, that's the first part of her cell phone number. He's redacted the rest. The bottom, her address, with some of it redacted, but you can read a little bit of it, with a threat that if we didn't take down his information within 24 hours, he would send that to the public, which is terrifying, because I assume the purpose behind that would be that people would show up and burn her house down or assault her. So these things are happening in Taiwan. It's disgusting, but it's happening. This was really scary. So I immediately wrote an article about him. So yeah, our friends at Redux published it and wrote about everything that he was doing. I gave the Green Party in Taiwan a chance to respond, a chance to say something about it. I sent this information to all East Asian news outlets. Nobody would touch it. God forbid you go against the narrative that this man is a victim, rather than the women that he's actually trying to harm. And the only thing that we ever heard from him, which I guess was implied for me, was this. That's his response. And spoiler, I did not shut up. So, and we didn't take it down from No Self ID. So sad for him, didn't work. Okay, how are we fighting back? We started with grassroots efforts. We were going door to door. And by we, I mean this incredible group of primarily anonymous Taiwanese activists, male and female, incredible people who have to remain anonymous, door to door, handing out leaflets, getting on social media, creating organizations, websites like No Self ID Taiwan, English and Chinese, Again, providing people in Taiwan with a real look at what's happening globally and how this would affect them. Part of what I do, really my job is the English loudspeaker. So taking our story global, being represented with WDI, I wrote a chapter for the book. A lot of stuff on Redux. I have a Substack, which is free because I'm not a good enough writer or write enough to charge people. So I will post that link in the chat box in a second, so you can see what's happening in Taiwan. We're getting set up with the LGB Alliance in Taiwan. My very, very good friend and colleague, Nick Yao, is setting that up. We have the Taiwan Women's Association, which we worked very hard for over a year to set up as an official NGO. And I'm the only non-Taiwanese person, because I'm a permanent resident, to be a founding member, which is fantastic. And we're now coordinating with other Asia-based feminists and feminist organizations, especially in Japan and China. So there's a lot going on. And sometimes we even manage to get the mainstream media to pay attention. Our volunteers are incredible. So they do things like this, which was at the end of 2023, Taiwan Women's Association held a press conference, "Women are not a piece of clothing." A lot of our members have to remain anonymous. They're more likely to be attacked in vicious ways than I am as a foreigner. I have more privilege that way, but they are doing incredible work. There is my very good friend on the bottom there, Nick Yao, incredible colleague and friend, and setting up the LGB Alliance Taiwan and posting their meetings on YouTube, doing incredible work. As far as Taiwan being peak woke, it just has to run its course with a whole lot of pushback from us. But that's where we are now. Thanks for having me on again, you guys.